Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. We are over near my priority physical TBR that I recently relocated because we are going to be doing another TBR Takedown challenge. I try to do these once a month. I don't know if I'm going to get to one in June, and it is the very end of May, but listen, we're doing it for the month. I didn't really know kind of how I wanted to focus on this, if I just wanted to pick random books or have a theme. I don't know, sometimes it helps a little bit to have a theme. It makes it a little bit more fun in my brain. And then I remembered that I actually have some of the books from this list on my 26 for 2026 TBR. I let my boyfriend pick half of those books because I knew there was a stronger chance that he was going to pick some old ones for my TBR, and I knew that I probably wouldn't, and he did not let me down. So I decided we're just gonna read those. That way I'm kind of knocking out these, I'm kind of knocking out some of the books on my yearly TBR, you know, win-win situation. So we'll go over the ones that I have. First up we have Cain's Jawbone. This is literally just 100 small little pages of stories, and it's supposed to comprise an entire mystery story. The kind of interesting twist to it is that this is written out of order, and the whole idea is it's supposed to be this not crossword puzzle, but a puzzle that people were supposed to be able to solve. So there are 6 murders, 100 pages, millions of possible combinations, but only one is correct. Can you solve this murder mystery? So at the time that this was released, it was a long time ago, and then they reprinted it. You could actually send in your submissions and win a cash prize if you were one of the first people that ended up getting it right. I think it said that only 3 or 6, I can't remember which, people have successfully reordered this puzzle. I don't know if I'm going to have the mental headspace to decide to really stick with this, but I do want to read through the stories, see if I can order them out and everything, and if not, I mean, it is what it is. I might hang on to it, do it at another time when I think it could be fun, but at the very least we're going to read through this and see what I think. Then we have a little trilogy. I don't think he realized when he picked the first book that it was a series, and well, I mean, if it's a series, I gotta see if I can read the whole thing. So this is a dystopian, a YA dystopian series that was released, God, 2000s, early 2000s, I can't remember. I know I was pretty young when I saw it going around. So this was released in 2011. So yeah, I was 15 when this was first released, so that sounds about right. And I never got to it. Then I found it in a little free library, and I was like, well, you know what, we're gonna give it a try, see whether or not I like it. I don't actually know too much about it. It says, in this society, officials decide who you love, where you work, and when you die. Cassia has always trusted their choices. It's hardly any price to pay for a long life, the perfect job, and the ideal mate. So when her best friend appears on the matching screen, Cassia knows with complete certainty that he's the one, until she sees another face flash for an instant before the screen fades to black. Now Cassia is faced with the impossible choice between Xander and Kai, between the only life she's known and a path no one else has ever dared to follow, between perfection and passion. I love dystopian novels. There was definitely a time when they were much more prominent and everybody was obsessed with them. It seems like that's coming back around, which I love, so I feel like I need to read an older dystopian series before I get sucked into some new ones. We'll see whether or not I end up completing the series. We'll start with this one, obviously, and kind of go from there. Some YA just hasn't been hitting for me anymore, so I don't know how this one's going to go, but we're certainly going to give it a try. And then the last one we have on the list is The Twin by Natasha Preston. I have had a couple of Natasha Preston books featured in my reading vlogs. They don't normally seem to go well because they're so YA, and for especially thrillers, YA just doesn't work for me anymore. But I own a bunch of them, so we're still reading through them, and Dan just happened to put one of them on my priority TBR, like I said. So we're gonna give this a shot. This is about 2 twin sisters that were separated at birth when their parents decided to get divorced. The mom ends up passing away, and the twin that was living with her goes to live with her father and her twin, and I think it kind of goes off the rails, where it sounds kind of like the twin whose parent passed away is kind of taking over the identity of the other one. Could be wrong about that, but I feel like that's where the storyline is going to go. If it is, I hope she does it well, because that's been done before, for sure. But, you know, I'm trying to be positive about this. We're just going to see how long it takes me to get through all of these. Hopefully I don't end up DNFing them, but we do know for my TBR Takedown videos, because these have been on my TBR the longest, I am much more critical about them, and much easier to DNF, or much quicker to DNF if I am not enjoying it, because I have so many books that I need to get through, and so little time. So if they've been on here this long, then I don't give them as long to kind of pull me in, which maybe isn't fair, I don't really know, but we'll see. Hopefully this doesn't turn into a video of me DNFing just a bunch of books, because I feel like that would be boring for you guys. And if it does, then I guess we'll have to reevaluate what I'm reading. But we're gonna start with these, and we're gonna go from there. I think the first one I'm gonna read is Cain's Jawbone, and yeah, I don't know. I'm a little nervous about this one. A little nervous. I just realized I'm fairly confident I forgot to mention how many books are on this prior to TBR. I read a couple other books outside of my TBR Takedown videos that were just put on my monthly TBR. So I am actually down to 124 now. I don't remember what I was at previously, but yeah, I'm at 124 on this list, and we'll see how many I can accomplish by the end of this video. Obviously, I should be able to cross 3 off of the list, but who knows? Life just sometimes gets in the way. But yeah, starting at 124. All right, I've gotten through 15 pages of this, or like 15 of the little short stories, and it's gonna be, I don't know, I don't think that I'm going to be able to put this in order. The writing is very old. I think it was first published, let's see, in 1934. So much older writing style, which makes it a little bit more confusing anyway. It's just a lot harder to kind of take in what you're reading and retain it. It's also just confusing. I think if like these were pages that you could tear out, like if they were perforated, you could tear them out and like start organizing them that way. It would be much easier to rearrange everything, but that's not the case. So far, every single one of them has referenced a young woman, and I think at first I thought she was getting married. Now I think she's going through a grieving process, but like I guess she could have been getting married, and like one of the people that dies in here is her fiance, husband, whatever, and now she's grieving him. Or we could be talking about completely different women. I don't really know, because sometimes it says only she, sometimes it references a name. It's very confusing. I also don't know if the narrator in each of these pages, stories, whatever, is the same person. It's always in first person, but sometimes the writing style or like the narration seems a little bit different. So I don't know if this is also multi-POV. Yeah, I don't really know. So I definitely don't think that I'm gonna spend a ton of time trying to solve this. Like I said, I think if I could like take out the pages and everything, it would be a lot easier. They do have like cut lines here, but I don't want to cut the book apart, so I don't really know how I want to do this. I think I'm just gonna read through it and then go from there, I guess. Honestly, I don't think this is going to be solved in this video. This was probably a little bit unrealistic of me to put on this reading vlog, because it's something that would take so much time. I actually think it would be kind of fun to read through with my boyfriend. Maybe one day I'll cut all the pages out, as much as it's gonna hurt me. I'll cut the pages out and the two of us can work through it together and see if we can solve it. I don't really know, but at the very least I will read through all of it today, just that way I can say that I've read it and talk about it and stuff, but there is no way that's getting organized at all in this video. It is much later, as you can probably tell. The one problem with working nights, I mean, there are some, quite a few, but I always end up starting these reading vlogs later in the day, and then I only have so much daylight to do all the things, and then I stop reading, and then it gets getting really late before I start talking to you guys again. But anyway, I finished Cain's Jawbone. Obviously, like I said, I wasn't really trying to put any of these pieces together. I was just kind of reading through it to see what the setup of this was, kind of how it would work. If I did try to do that, I think maybe eventually I will go through this, like I said, with my boyfriend, and maybe like just make a fun night out of trying to organize all of these stories. It seems like the setup of this is, I do think it's one POV, and there's this one female character that's repeatedly mentioned in reference to a couple different guys, and then another guy that a couple of the entries make seem like he's responsible for these murders, but I'm actually not entirely sure. There's a couple that make it seem like the narrator actually might be a little bit not mentally stable, and I think he might actually be the one that is responsible for these, and he's spinning it like it's this guy named Henry. I also don't know for sure though. It's been really fun to try to like figure it out just the way that I'm reading it, and in a completely unlinear fashion. It's very interesting. It was kind of fun reading it that way and going, I don't know how all these pieces fit together, but like I think maybe this way, and then you read another one and you're like, well, nope, that just shoots that down completely. So yeah, it was kind of fun reading through this. So we're done with that one. I think tonight I want to try to finish the twin and then leave the matched series for tomorrow, because I was trying to see if I could get both of these done in 2 days. If I didn't, so be it, but I do think I could very easily. So we're going to focus on this one tonight and see how this one goes. It's 375 pages, which isn't long. These go really fast. I just am very concerned about it keeping my interest for that long because, like I said, I haven't had a great track record with Natasha Preston books. I do really think this is going to be like the typical sort of psychological thriller where a twin enters the other one's life and starts kind of taking over their life. So I don't know how she's going to do this in a way that's kind of unique and fresh. We'll see whether or not that's accomplished, but at the very least I would be getting another book off my TBR, which is the whole point of this challenge. So I'm going to stop talking and blabbing and get to this. Actually, that's a lie. I'm going to take a shower first because somehow my hair has just become very gross throughout the day, and it's now very annoying. So we're gonna take a shower first, and then I'll get into reading this, and at some point I will check in with you guys. Hopefully tonight. Hopefully tonight. We'll see. So I fear that this is going pretty much exactly like I thought it was going to. I don't know why I expected any different at this point. I really should just unhaul these books without reading them because I know that they're not going to be high ratings, but I'm stubborn. I'm stubborn, and that's what this boils down to. So I keep holding out hope that one of them is going to surprise me, because I have seen people that love thrillers that recommend her books. Maybe I'm not reading the right one. I don't really know at this point. Anyway, this, yeah, set up exactly what I thought it was going to be. The one twin comes to live with her dad and her sister, and she is just acting very oddly surrounding her mother's death. I think I originally said that they were separated at birth, that their parents divorced while they were still, like, infants, toddlers. That is not the case. Parents separated at 10, so I don't know how I screwed that up so badly. So they've lived separate lives for 6 years, only seeing each other maybe like for vacations or like the summer, stuff like that. I'm 100 pages in, and we really didn't slow roll this weird behavior at all. It was pretty instantaneous, where she just started being a little bit odd and back and forth in her behavior, in her mood swings, and the sister's clocking it really quickly. I feel like if the sister wasn't immediately like, why is she acting like this? Why is she doing this? And things were portrayed a little, like I said, like a little more slow paced, building into the weird behavior, it would be done better. It's just like, we had an idea and she immediately needed to jump into it. Like, she was too excited not to, as the author, I mean. So yeah, I'm gonna finish it because, as I said, I'm stubborn and I hate DNFing books so frequently for you guys. And I'm kind of hoping that maybe by the end of this we get some kind of fun twist in here, but as of right now it is the typical setup that you get in this twin scenario, where one is like the bad twin and the other is the good twin, and yeah. That's where we're at with this one. I'm very excited to say that I finished the twin last night. Hi, Horton. And just, you know, I just wanted to go to bed once I finished it, in all honesty. So I didn't update you guys on this. It did kind of run its course the way that I thought it was going to. I gave it a 2-star only because actually, did I give it a 2-star or 1-star? I was going to give it a 2-star, that's what I did. I was going to give it a 2-star because there was a moment in here that I was a little surprised that we went that far, and then the ending of it brought it back down to a 1-star, because the ending, holy stupid, hated the ending of this. There was like just no resolution. There was no saving the main female character. There was no like grace for her, or I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now. It just wasn't satisfying at all. I kind of left it almost open-ended, where it's like, I don't know if she's planning on continuing this story at some point, but that's kind of how it felt, and I just didn't really appreciate that at all. So yeah, 1-star read, did not enjoy. I promise, I will not vlog me reading the last Natasha Preston book that I have on my physical TBR. That way I'm not putting you guys through that again. Most likely I'm going to DNF that one. Honestly, I should have DNF'd this one. I know I should have, because I said that I was going to be a little bit stricter on DNFing the books on my priority TBR that I've had so long. Normally I'm good at it. Every once in a while my brain rebels and goes, no, you really should try to push through. You should really do this. And this was just one of those moments. I don't know why. Maybe because it was on my 2026 TBR, but I DNF'd another book on that that I really wasn't enjoying. I don't know. Every once in a while I struggle to do that, and this was just one of those moments. And it is what it is. We're moving on. That means we are going to be reading the Matched series. I found the audiobook for this actually on Libby, so I think I'm going to listen to that while I go out and weed the garden. Not my favorite thing to do in the world, but it needs done. Yay for home ownership. Listen, I love my home, but God, I hate weeding so much. Anyway, not the point, not the point. I need to do that, and I would love to at least read through some of this and everything while doing that, so I figured the audiobook's a good way to go with it. I did read the first chapter just to see kind of what I was going to think about it. It's definitely YA writing, but it's nothing that I'm hating so far. That sounds like such a downer thing to say. It's like I can get behind the writing, so I'm hopeful that this is going to at least be semi-decent. We'll see. I guess we'll see at this point, but it's not super long. Like, I feel like the audiobook wouldn't take long to get through. I haven't looked at how long it is. 366 pages, but like this is like kind of smaller. The writing's fairly like decent sized, so I think that I could make it a decent way through this while weeding the flower beds, and then I will check back in at some point with you guys. I'm like 2 hours and 12 minutes into the audiobook for this, so chapter 8, I don't know what that equates to on the pages, and I'm actually really sad reading this, and I didn't expect to be, and I think it's because it talks about not only like how they match people for their life partners and everything, but they also have a specific day when everybody's expected to die. And it's recounting her grandfather and like her last time with her grandfather, and my grandfather passed away a few weeks ago, so it's hitting a little closer than I expected it to, especially because the whole reason that they're doing that they tell people like when they're gonna die is because then they don't have to deal with any of like the elderly diseases that everybody deals with. And after watching my grandfather struggle with Parkinson's for years, it's a nice thought to live in a world where that doesn't exist. Obviously that's not realistic, and there's always, as dystopian novels show, it's just not good and natural for it to be that way, but I would have loved for him to not have that, and for us to have that chance to be with him on his last day. So yeah, things took a very depressing turn, which I wasn't expecting. But yeah, I don't know how much I'd like it if it weren't for that aspect. Honestly, like, it's not bad, but this is giving it a different connection than I would normally have. So that's definitely going to affect the way that I take this in, I think. Finally done weeding the flower bed. That has been like a 3-day long project, so I'm very happy to have accomplished that. And I just wanted to give an update on where I'm at now that I'm actually back inside looking at my physical book. I'm 140 pages in. According to the audiobook, that's like 38% of the way through this. I do think I'm going to take a pause. Well, not really, because I'm going to keep listening to the audiobook, but I gotta go to Target, get some stuff. I'm going on vacation down to Florida next week, and I, once again, waited until the very end to go get things that I knew I needed for this trip. So we're going to do that, since I really won't have time the next 2 days before leaving, because I have work, and then I leave straight after a night shift to go to the airport. So that's not going to be enjoyable. So we're going to go do that, and I will check back in at some point later tonight. Probably, like, I might just wait till we're finished, because right now I don't really have a ton of thoughts going on with this. It's just the typical dystopian setup where the society is controlling everybody. It doesn't really seem to have any, how do I want to phrase this? I feel like most of the dystopian books that I read, there's always like an outcast people group. Like Hunger Games, it's like the further out districts, like District 11, District 12, and then Divergent, there's obviously like the people that don't fit into a specific group, or sometimes even like the Dauntless are kind of looked down on because of how crazy they are. And yeah, there's just always those people in these groups, and so far it's been talking about like an aberration, I think they were calling it, but they don't really explain what that is, so I don't know if we're gonna get somebody at some point that doesn't fit into this society. It kind of seems like they just do away with those people, in all honesty. So I think a lot of the negative things are being sheltered because the main female character is so young. Now, she is in a lot of those other books too, but like you eventually see those things. I think it's just hidden better in this book. Either that or we really just don't have that, which then I'm not really sure where the conflict is going to start coming from in here, because obviously you have to have those people groups that don't fit into these little boxes that everybody puts them into. But I don't have a ton to comment on right now, other than everything that was going on with her grandfather, and now she's still ruminating over the screen showing her a flash of a different person for who she should be matched with. So she keeps like going back to that and thinking about that person. I'm sure at some point that's going to turn into something bigger, but for now it hasn't really, other than just like normal teenage stuff where it's like, oh, well, maybe, like kind of like a crush where it's, you never really thought that person was available as like an option, and then they might show interest in you, and all of a sudden like your teenage brain just can't leave it alone. That's kind of what's going on with it. If that made any sense. It probably didn't make any sense. I am now rambling for no good reason when I really need to get out the door, so I will check back in later. As promised, we are back now that I've finished Matched. I think overall, this was like a 2.5 star read. I know I said earlier that I was like connected with the beginning of it. Obviously, a lot of that was just the nature of what was going on in the story and just hitting some, you know, personal notes in my life that were still a little bit sad and raw. Yeah, there's that. Aside from that, I really didn't have much of a connection to this at all. The romance that develops in here, because she's shown this other person on her little screen, just felt very unrealistic. Like, she only decides that she's interested in him because he's given as an option, and that just didn't seem, like I said, it didn't seem realistic. It just didn't make sense to me. I don't think that's how things would have gone had that not happened. I feel like this would have been a little bit more provoking if she had been interested in him despite him not showing up on her screen, and if like a romance had developed between the two of them anyway, and that's why she wanted to fight back against what was going on and she wanted her own choice. But like in all reality, she was accidentally given this choice, and then it was taken from her, so now all of a sudden she wants it. Like, I wanted her to want it on her own, if that makes sense. And then largely I was a little bit bored throughout here. There were some parts of the story that just didn't really make sense to me. They never really explained what aberrations were and anomalies. Oh my god, it's like my brain just like started glitching. It's like a freaking record player that just skips. Anyway, anomalies. You piece together parts of it, but it's not really, it doesn't make sense why they're named, given the little bit that they explain about them. They threw in some slight world building at the end, but it was so jarringly done that I was like, whoa, wait, what are you talking about? This, what are you, I just, you don't get any context of what the society is like in relation to anything outside of it, or if there's anything outside of it. And I wanted more development of that. I wanted more development of sort of this conflict that has started building within her. And yeah, I don't know. I get that this is YA. So like, maybe if I was much younger when I was reading it, I wouldn't want those things. And I would just be really wrapped up in the romance that is made in this. It's just, looking back at it now, I am not. And that's okay. That's okay. It's still like, it wasn't a terrible read by any means. That being said, I don't think I want to read the next 2 books. I just don't think I'm going to get much out of them. And I have heard that the series isn't as good after the first book. So if I only gave the first book a 2.5 star read, I don't really see the need to continue through to the next ones. So that is going to be the end of this little TBR takedown. I know we only did a few in here, and it wasn't quite as many books as like maybe I sometimes get through if it's like the speed dating my physical TBR. I might go back to that next time. I don't really know. Haven't decided yet what we're gonna do. I don't know if I'm gonna do one in June or not, because I want to try to prioritize bangers in June, and if my goal is to get through some of these, I'm just worried that I'm not going to. So we'll see. I might only be back in July for this reading challenge. But anyway, as a update for the tally, that took 3 off of my list. I know that technically there were 5 that I was holding up, but because I was insufferable and some of my series were written down as just one option, the match series unfortunately fell under that. So reading all 3 or deciding not to finish the series only takes 1 out of there. So I'm now down to 121 on my priority TBR, which it's not bad. It's not bad. I would like to get below 100 by the end of the year. I think originally when I started doing this, I said 75. I'm not entirely sure what I originally said. I don't know how realistic that is, so we'll see if I can at least get it below 100, and I would be happy with that. But I'm once again rambling, so I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to cut myself off. I hope to see you guys in another video very soon. Bye.